I had the pleasure of meeting up with Luciano Muñoz, and he talked through his new film Freelance, a short film which I absolutely love. Make sure you check out the link in the description, perhaps watch that before you watch this interview. He's got a wealth of information, lots of experience, so it was really interesting to see what he had to say and talk about his film. And if you watch through to the end, he's got some really interesting tips where he breaks down some of the technical aspects and how he kind of simplified things. And that for me was really inspiring, so I hope you'll be inspired too. Anyway, thank you, Luciano, for joining me. This is Luciano Muñoz. I'm trying to get that right this time. Thank you. Thanks. And he's got this amazing film, this short film called Freelance, which I absolutely love. So thank you very much for joining us. Tell us a little bit about yourself to start with. What's your background and all those sort of things?
All right. I'm going to try to keep it short because the story is super long. But basically, I studied audiovisual communication back in 2003-4. And slowly learned there was this thing called animation that I could actually study. I didn't know at the time. And took a class in Vancouver, which led me to start to work freelance when I went back home. And I worked between compositing and animation, but generally doing a little bit of everything. Eventually, I decided I wanted to work in film. I realized that was the reason I joined the industry after more or less 10 years of doing advertising and stuff. When that happened, I went to Spain, took a class in Pepe Schoolland. You know, Dani Martinez Lara, the king of grease pencil, the creator of Alike. So I took a class with him for about 10 months in Spain. And then I joined Framestore and I started going into feature animation. So I went to Framestore, DNEG, Jellyfish, Animal Logic in Sydney, then Cyborg in Belgium, and then moved to Canada. DNEG also. Yeah, did I mention DNEG? I don't remember. That's how my brain works. I don't remember the stuff that I just said. I came to Canada, worked at Sony, RealFX, Animal Logic, and now at Bardell. I just started at Bardell a week ago. So it's been a fun career. I managed to get into feature animation, which is what I really wanted. So I've worked in really fun films, at least for me, like The Sea Beast, which I really enjoyed. Ron's Gone Wrong, which I really enjoyed. There's a bunch of projects that have made me happy. And finally, now I did the project that's made me the happiest so far.
So how did you find time to do this film as well as all those other things?
You don't. I mean, you sleep less, I guess. No, but for instance, I took the short film very, very slowly, mostly at the beginning, because when I started thinking about doing this was when I started at Framestore. Actually, probably earlier. The thing is, the idea popped up when I was working as a freelance artist back in 2009, right? It kind of makes sense. And after hearing the word freelance for so long, I thought I always known English a little bit, so I thought free and lance, those are two words put together. Don't tell me that's not it. So I researched and I found that in the medieval times there were knights and there were kings and there were knights that knights would use lances, right? And there were knights that would work for multiple kings, and they were called free lances, right? And I was like, that makes total sense. How has nobody done a film about this, right? And it kept on popping on my head, and I saw short films and series about the world of freelancing, the world of artists for hire or whatever, and the hurdles, and nobody approached it like this. And for the longest time, it kept on popping back into my head. And in 2017, when I joined Framestore, a friend of mine, I told him, I had this idea for a while. I don't know if you think this is even remotely good. He's like, oh, this is great. And I'm I kept on marinating it. And so slowly when I would find brain time to use, I would use it, right? And so during Framestore still, I remember I had a period of time, of a month, that I was working on a project that I was feeling brain dead. I was literally hitting a hammer like that, and I was and my brain was let's be creative, I'm bored, and I came up with the general idea for the film. It's what would be the worst thing that you could do to the knight? Just send him hunting for dragons. And then the king just like doesn't want that dragon, wants another dragon, right? And so it's like, holy crap, okay, that I think I got something here, right? And so I put it together like on that evening. I remember put together a general idea in like writing. The next day came and like talked to a friend and go like, hey, what do you think of this? Like I got this idea for a short film, blah blah blah, Night King, whatever. And he's like, oh, that's really cool. Okay, so I would like whenever there was splurges of energy, I would do it. Right? It's much harder to finish a project like that because obviously it took 6.5 years. Right? And if you think of the original conception when I first thought of it, it's 15 years. So, but obviously during those 15 years, we didn't work like crazy. We were like splurges, 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 and then like eventually in 2020 I did the first storyboards and then Marion did the first designs around that time. And so I would, because for me it was like a playful fun project that I wanted to achieve, to fulfill everything that during the work during the day wasn't fulfilling. I had to make it in a relaxed, comfortable way, right?
Yeah.
And so for the most part it was like that, chill. If I had time I would do it. Once we got to like story finally locked down, then we invested more time. Like, and some friends invested like 3 months of their time because they had their own studio, and they're like, oh, we only have 3 months to work on it, and so they worked full time on it, and that was like a lot of work that was done, right? And then when we switched up to Tumblehead, it was kind of the same idea. They were like, we have 3 months to work on this. Let's just like put all in it, because for them, in a way, it was an investment. It's like, let's do this film that we want to do. Like, honestly, once you get to the story and you need to produce the film, it's not that the fun part is gone, but that's the part where like you can do it slowly. Like the other part, you just need to go with it and finish it, right? And
Yeah.
so at that time, like I was unemployed since like October last year to like October this year, and that was like the end of production. Like I was able to do a lot of things as well full time, like or every day, and not even full time because like energy like goes up and down. And so yeah, to me, finding it was like just like because I was so into the project, the energy was finding me, and more than me trying to find the energy to do it.
So you've talked about you say we, and so they're obviously a team of people. How many of you were there, and how important was that to have a team for you? Do you think?
Um, so I can't remember exactly how many we were because we were different amount of people at different times. But I have I mean, I put them all in the credits, so
Yeah.
there is a list. I just haven't counted them.
Yeah.
But I think at the beginning, it was me and a friend, me and another friend, me, 4 friends in total. Then we were three. Sorry, 5 friends. Then we were three, and then we were four, and then again we was two again, and then I was me, and then we were four again, and then we grew. But it was really important because, in a way, I felt validated because there were people that wanted to work on this, and they're my friends. Like, it's not just because they're friends that they wanted to work on. Like most of my friends are like professionals in the industry, right? And some of my closest friends are as well. And the fact that they want to work on something like this, that they really like it, that they're willing to invest their time, is because there's something more than just like the friendship. That it's
Yeah.
cool. They want to be part of it, and so that was very important, because also that gave me a lot of commitment. Like the moment somebody got involved, like the moment Marion was involved, I was like, I should try and finish this, like, because otherwise her designs are never see the light of day, aside from what she can put in her portfolio, right?
Mm.
Um, and then when Gaston worked on it, same thing. It's like, cool. This is another step forward. Like at that point, I was already going like, this is a thing I'm gonna finish. Yes or yes. And then I got to this point where I had the final animatic, and I did hesitate a little bit. I was like, maybe I can stop here. Like everybody laughed. It's good enough. Ha ha ha. But I mean, now the hard part comes to actually finish it, right? Or like the one that's like more manpower requiring. And then I remember I was like, well, Marion did like really cool stuff. Gaston did like really good stuff. I really want to show this to everybody. And as an animatic, it works for my friends. It's not gonna work for anybody else. So let's just make it. Let's just have it. And yeah, and like just honestly, like having people help in one fulfilling all of the things that I can't do myself. Because I mean, I can't paint the backgrounds that Jasper paint. I can animate, but Jasper is an amazing and fast animator as well. So I'm like, wow. So also like help me disconnect from some of the shots and just look at them from a directorial standpoint, right? I can't like rig or light how Magnus does it, nor do 2D like Peter does, and so on. So a lot of like they elevated all of the areas where I'm weak as well, right? Um, and we as a team, because at the beginning I was directing alone, but in the end I ended up directing with the guys from Tambohead, with Peter and Magnus. Um, like they've done short films for the last 15 years, so they already know a lot of the pitfalls that we were gonna fall into, that I was gonna fall into, and like they also helped me kind of keep in track and not forget where we were going with this, and not forget that we're trying to do something simple. Because like the more you get resources, you start going like, oh, we can add this and we can do this, and no, 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 and it's like no, it's just, like remember, like this was the film that we all like, and like yeah, that makes sense. Yeah, let's keep to that. And
Yeah.
so it was very important to actually get a team. I was super lucky to get a team, screw things up, and then get another team anyways. And so I was like, okay, yeah, I need to like cherish this. This is like very lucky for me.
Yeah. I mean, it looks very professional and polished. It looks you wouldn't be able to distinguish between what you've done there and Pixar or Disney. It just looks and you can tell the professionalism there. So it's certainly great that you've got these professionals that you can work, pick their brains and work with. That's really is quite something, and it makes for a wonderful experience. So tell us a little bit about the technology behind it. So what sort of animation programs are you using, and
Mhm.
who did the sound and all this sort of stuff?
So at the very beginning, I started storyboarding in. I think the first storyboard was Rough Animator. I did the first storyboard in it's a software for the iPad. It's like $5, and it's basically a 2D animation software. And I did it in there because like it allows you like to have a timeline and to like have like different layers and whatever. And I felt like it was a little bit overcomplicated to do a storyboard, right? And so that was like the first animatic. The second animatic, or the final animatic, ended up being Procreate plus Rough Animator plus Luma Fusion, which is an like kind of like a Final Cut for the iPad when Final Cut wasn't there, right? And wasn't super expensive, but it was just easy and fast enough for what I needed. And so I would like the static images, I would create them in Procreate. If I needed to animate something in the shot, I would do it in Rough Animator, and then just export that and do it in Luma Fusion. And I did all of that because I was super tired of sitting here all day, and so I would move the work to the couch, move the work to the bed, move the work anywhere else that wasn't the desk, right? Because I have a good computer, I have like a Cintiq and everything, and I could have done it here, but I was working full time during the day, and so I was just like, I don't want to sit there anymore, right? And so that was like the first few things. Then the first tests, obviously, I did them in Blender because that's where I feel most comfortable to do anything that's not just animation. Like in Maya, I do animation, but that's all I know. Like I can't. Like I used to be able to do a little bit of modeling. I used to be able to do a little bit of rigging. These days, I don't do any of that because in the type of pipelines I work on, somebody else does that, right? I just sit down, animate, and deliver my shots, right? And so I just picked up Blender because I still use it for fun, for secondary projects, for my channel. And it's where I like to grow as a 3D artist. It's where I feel most comfortable that I can gain more ground, because to me it feels like a long-term investment still. Like it's like if they kill Maya, they kill Houdini, they kill whatever, Blender's still gonna be there
Yeah.
because right? And so that's where I usually do my playful stuff. And also doesn't break that easily. So like I grabbed a couple of like characters that my friend modeled on Nomad Sculpt, I think
Oh
was.
yeah.
And then like I didn't even retopologize it, add some stuff on top, and then added bones. And that set up ideas for what was going to come next, right? And then we worked in Blender and did with the first team, we did an entire layout. We had like 3D rigs and look dev and like test of like how different things would look in the environments that we're trying to get to. And by the end of that, when we separated and started working with Tumblehead, we started working in Maya and Houdini, not because Maya wasn't like Blender wasn't capable or anything, mostly because we already at that point were like, we need to finish this as soon as we can. We already know where the story is going, and they offered like, we would love to learn Blender if you need, like, if you want to, but I was like, at that point, I'm like, you know what? I just want us to like do it in the most comfortable way, and so if we're gonna redo a lot of the things like remodel and re-rig and everything, we might as well do it where you're comfortable and just get it done, right? And they're like, yeah, let's do that because it feels like a best use of the current resources, right? And so we went to Maya for animation and rigging. Magnus sculpted the characters in ZBrush. And then shading, lighting, rendering was done in Houdini, like rendering in Karma. We actually appeared in the Houdini 20 sneak peek release, whatever, right?
Nice.
Yeah, they got into a nice deal with the side effects because they're beta testers for them and they help them a lot with the stuff. And so like, yeah, they used part of the material for the presentation, and we were super proud. Like they showed it in London in a stage and whatever. It's like, oh shit, that's so cool. And then Resolve and Fusion for compositing and editing and coloring, color correction. And I don't know about sound. Because we didn't do the sound, like they had their friends that they brought in, and I would talk to the friends through them. They were credited and everything, but I just never got to meet them. But they did amazing, and so I'm like,
Yeah.
I don't care what software you use, as long as you did amazing, it's fine, right?
Yeah.
So yeah, this is I think the general breakdown of all the softwares. I don't think I'm missing any aside from maybe something that they might have used for textures, but I don't think so. I
Yeah.
think textures. No, yeah, actually, Magnus painted the textures directly in ZBrush. Yeah, I actually have a clip of that if you want it later.
Yeah. So, in a sense, you're saying that obviously lots of people are watching this are going to say, "Oh, Blender's the greatest," sort of thing. But it's what you can work with in a sense with other people in the team. I imagine that's was holding back there in terms of the timings and
Yeah,
things.
I feel like the best tool is the one that you know how to use to an extent. Uh, And yeah, I mean, you could argue that there are some tools that are better for one thing and some tools that are better for other ones. Yeah, absolutely. But if you don't know how to use it, like sometimes learning how to use the proper one instead of adapting with the one that you have, it's gonna take you less more time. And so I think making my teacher Danilara said a phrase that like stuck with me a lot, and it's art is the genius use of the resources available, and this is basically that. Like we try to use everything that we had available to us, and then to make something, right? And at that point, it didn't make sense to like go like, you know what, I'm just not gonna do it if it's not in Blender. No, because my point was not to use Blender, was to do a film, right? If the point was to use Blender, yes, I did the wrong thing, obviously, right? But my point was to make a film, right? And so at the beginning, obviously, I was more obtuse and I really wanted to do it in Blender. But at the end, I was like, you know what? Doesn't matter. I don't care. It's about the film. Maybe next one I'm gonna try and push more for Blender. Actually, in like working on developing a couple of shorts, and I want to do something that maybe I can do just alone in Blender, just to level up more in modeling, level up more in shading, level up more in every area, in every aspect. Now that I know what it entails to a film, and try to keep it even smaller, so it's achievable on my own. Maybe, but
Yeah.
also I really like working with people, and so
Yeah.
we'll see. I mean,
Um,
most of my friends like know at least a little bit about Blender, or they've tried learning about Blender, but it will depend on the film, it would depend on the people, it would depend on what state I'm in. Honestly, normally I feel like it's more important or easier to finish a project when you care about the project, not the tool. The tool,
Definitely.
it's part of it, obviously, it's important, but it's not the end game, right? It's
Yeah.
like money. Money is not the end game. The end game is actually to be able to do stuff with it.
Exactly. So, a slight aside: if you were advising people who are thinking of getting into the industry, do you think it matters what software they're learning so much? Do you think they should
No,
be
I
learning
never.
Maya?
Yeah, I think sorry, I cut you off because I already like I knew where you were going,
Yeah.
and it's funny because like I've been asked this several times, and there is a benefit of learning the tools that the studio that you're gonna work for are expecting, but they won't care if you don't know it as long as you're good at what you're doing. So what I mean is, if you know Maya, but you're a terrible animator and you're applying for animation, regardless of whether you know the software that they use, doesn't matter, right? Now, in the other sense, if you show them that you know how to animate and you're a good animator, they won't even ask whether you know the software or not. They'll just assume you know it, and then you'll have to live with it. And hopefully, when you get in the job, you'll figure it out or you'll practice before, right? And
Yeah.
so, for instance, in Pepe School, like they normally would teach Blender and Maya just so you know what the other side is like. But for instance, my graduation project, my final assignment, whatever, was all Blender, and nobody ever asked whether it was Blender or Maya or anything. I just got hired. I was lucky that I already had experience in Maya, and so it made it a little bit easier. But still, wasn't like a super Maya animator. It's just like I just knew how to move things. Um, and so yeah, really it's the skill, not the software. The software is completely irrelevant. And I realized also this when I was like, you know what, I'm gonna learn some Blender and then eventually I'm gonna have to change to Maya if I go into this type of projects or whatever. But then I thought of like my dream has always been to go to Pixar or and DreamWorks, and they have their own software. So if I'm not willing to learn another software, then I might as well not even try to go there because I'm gonna be completely out of my depth. There's no information online. There's no tutorials because it's the in-house software. Like the only people that know how to use it is the people that had worked there. So I need to be like I've always thought I need to be open to this possibility, yeah, if I ever want to work in a place like that, right?
Yeah. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense.
So
So,
yeah, it's irrelevant. It's always just a skill.
yeah. So, when you first thinking about doing a short film, what do you think? So it's a strange question, but what are you trying to achieve? What's the point of doing a small film when you've got a job anyway? And why are you thinking? Oh, I really want to make a small film. What's your purpose behind it? Does that make sense as a question?
Oh, absolutely, absolutely. Like because I mean, I think the reasoning for your question first is it's such a daunting task. It's such a
Yes.
long process. It's
Yeah.
such a so much
Scary.
effort, right?
Yeah.
And in the other sense, it's like one part, as I was like saying before, I felt I needed to do something that would fulfill me creatively, uh, because the job during the day wasn't doing that at that time, right? So that's one reason. Another reason is like I started thinking like I I maybe I need to look into the future. Maybe if the work is gonna be like this day by day, maybe in 10 years I won't want to be an animator. Maybe I want to be a director, right? Or something else, right? And so this is a way to hone my skills, to try my hand at directing. I worked with some like honestly like I joined the industry like feature animation to work with some of the best, right? And I've been lucky that even though I'm not even close to that, I have lots of friends that are incredible animators, incredible artists, and friends in every area that are absolutely amazing, and that I've made some of the most fascinating movies and everything, right? And but conversely, I worked with some terrible directors that have never directed anything in their lives, and I understand everybody needs a first chance, but to work with like the top talent of at everything and then suddenly like the head of the thing being the worst of everything, it's frustrating.
Mm.
And I was like, well, if I ever want to direct, at least I want to have some experience directing when I get there. So I know where my pitfalls are. I know what my insecurities, where my insecurities are gonna kick in. I know how making the film is, right? And you see it like people that have been in every area of animation that they actually come to do like film. They still don't even know what the other departments do, and you go like, how this why did they give money to this person? Like seriously? And a lot of times the movies are not even great. So I mean, you'd think, oh, maybe he's a genius and he's gonna make an amazing movie. And no, the movie's trash anyway. So and so that is kind of part of like a lot of little things of the motivation, right? It's basically I want to try and do and see if I can do whatever will fulfill me creatively on this side, and also it's a learning process as well. I think since I was in university the first time, I felt like I really wanted to make a film, and I remember like when I was at Vancouver Film School, we had to do like a film at the end, and I was like, oh, this trash is so bad. Like I struggled a lot with the idea. I struggled like it was the first time I modeled the character, so it was the model was terrible. It was the first time I rigged the character, so the rig was terrible. First time I animated a character, or maybe fourth because at that point we had been doing a couple of assignments. So, but like still, like the animation wasn't great, but it was still the standout part of the film. Uh, Lighting, I had never touched lighting. Well, obviously it was so it looked like crap. It like it moves like crap. It does everything like crap. And the story wasn't great either. I hadn't told many stories because in university when I studied audiovisual communication, didn't make us do much short films and stuff like that. I thought that was gonna be the point. But we did maybe two films in the 4 years that we were studying, and in between we did like other stuff like advertising and TV and whatever. And so I wasn't very experienced telling stories either, not seeing how other people would tell them. And so, yeah, after finished that, and I saw some friends that did like really cool films because I had some classmates that were very experienced. They'd been working in the industry for 10 years and then took that class. And that was like baffling. I was like, oh, yeah, you can also like come later, like, and like use this as a safe space to build something, to create something more, to make your, I don't know, your film or whatever, which a lot of them even got hired because of those films, because like, and they still got work afterward because of making those films, right? And so I was like, yeah, that's actually cool. Eventually I want to make a film that I'm happy with, that it looks cool, that I'm proud of, right?
Yeah.
And so that stayed in my head for longest time. And so yeah, it's a bunch of like things that come together to
Yeah.
make this kind of effort. Like I know, like for instance, working a piece for a showreel is just as hard, but like you don't have that motivation for 10 years. You have that motivation maybe for a couple of months, and you go like, okay, I
Yeah.
need to finish this thing. And so when you do a showreel piece, it's probably needs to be the amount of time like that it's that you'll keep the energy, because also you're changing and you're learning. And so for instance, if you're just trying to show that you can do this and you don't finish that piece now, in 3 months you're gonna be much better, hopefully.
Yeah. No,
and
no.
and that piece is not gonna be able to reflect what you were doing, and so that's why you need to finish it fast,
Yep.
right? Making a short film has another thing, because it's not about the point of like how it looks or what it looks like or whatever. It's more about like the whole piece as a package. Then that is a little bit more irrelevant, right? But still, you should finish it soon. I got friends that have doing films for like 10 years and they still haven't released them. And I
Yeah.
understand that. I understand why. But to me, it'd be super frustrating. I was frustrated not when finished when we stopped with friend team A before we started with friend team B, which was like a span of like 3 4 months. Um, I was like I deep in depression. I was like, oh, my life is going nowhere. My career is going nowhere. My short film is going nowhere. And that was the kicker. I was like, oh my
Can I
god, like
can I quickly
yeah.
ask, uh, why did that happen? Why did you sort of go from one team to the other? Is that
Um,
right?
Basically, the first team was a group of friends that work in Blender. They're well known in the space. They offered me to have 3 months to work on the film, and that was just after Annecy during after July, let's say July 2022. Um, and what happened was like I got super insecure about the story, because they were like on that mode that we were in the end. Like, let's charge, let's go and finish the film, and da, 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 da. And I was like, oh, no, I'm not sure. I need to see and explore if like there are other ideas that might make it better, or if there's anything we can like do right now that will make sure that this is the best story to tell. And so they carried on for this couple of months. But I was like, we can keep on working on like pre-production because the design is probably not gonna change much, because this is not gonna change much, whatever. But I ended up basically wasting their time. Like, at least they felt that. And at the end, I told them like, I've finally gone to the place where I feel this is the right film. But it was the same that we started with. But for them, it felt like a waste of time. And to me, it felt like I've grown into this point where it's like, this is a film to tell. But I had to give myself space to test things out, to play with
Yeah.
things. Because the whole process of the film had been like that. Like, I'll test something, I'll marinate on it, I'll sleep on it, I'll play with it, I'll taste something else, I'll show it to A, B, 3, C people, right? And the other thing that at that point kind of I like didn't feel comfortable with, I went from that very slow pace to like, oh, let's finish it, let's finish it, let's finish it. And I was like, I want to take my time to make it, to make sure that it's the film that I want to make, because I've already invested so much in this. Like, I don't want it to just like come out and then suddenly it's like, ah, it's not really good, or it's not really what had envisioned or whatever. And so, and I know they're amazing. They're really good artists. So it's not about, not talking about their capability. It's literally my insecurities kicking in, and that kind of like destroyed our like, relationship at that time, right? Like, they were super nice about it, but I was like, I just was like focused on like my baby, my baby, my baby, right? And so in the end, we just like ended up splitting up, and then months later, Marion, the girl that designed the characters, was a good friend of mine, which just actually moved to Vancouver, which I'm super happy for. She she lived in London at the time, because we met in London. So I lived in London at the time, and then she's also friend with Magnus and Peter from Tumblehead, because they studied in the same school, and I studied in that school in 2010. I took a class for 3 months. That's where I met Magnus. And so they went to London to like a Houdini event or something like that, visited Marion, and they asked her about the short film, because I showed them the animatics during Annecy that year. So I showed it to a bunch of friends, among of them. And one of the reasons I showed it to them is because the characters design are inspired in the type of films that they do, right? They have a short film that I really really like for a long time called Rob and Ron. I highly recommend it. It's gorgeous, super fun. It's the kind of humor I like, anyways. And so I wanted to show them the film because it was like the design was very inspired on their stuff. So I was like, I want to kind of give me your blessing. If not, we'll figure out a way to change it to make it like more different to what you do. And they were like, oh man, this is amazing. We really love it. Like, no worries. Like, I mean, it's not our designs. It's just like, we're inspired in other people, and the fact that you're inspired in us is great. And so when they came to London and Marion told them, hey, like they talked about the film, and they're like, Luciano's working alone now, I think, and here, like, this is the stuff that they did during this couple of months. And so they called me up the next day, and they were like, do you want to work together? I'm like, yes. And so we put together a meeting. I showed them the stuff that we had. I showed them the things that I liked from what we had at that point. I showed them where I thought there was maybe problems, things that we could address or redo or whatever. And they're like, yeah, let's give it also like a little bit of a Tumblehead spice, because they obviously have this style, so they want to put their hand on it. And yeah, we agreed to direct it together. And from then on, we started charging. And in a way, it's funny because they were like in the same vein of like, let's just charge with it. But I felt more comfortable at that point, because at that point I knew that that was the story, and they pitched me kind of like some edits to the story, like little things like converting like the fast paced part into like a montage with like multiple screens.
Yep.
They came up with the idea of the joke of like having the first image be very epic and then cut to the funky audio of the trumpets and whatever. And I was like, I love that. And so all of that, so like that, they plus the film right away, and it was in the ways that I felt were super fitting to what I was doing, and so we kind of clicked. We already wanted to work together for a while, and so we just like run with it. And at this time, I was like, cool. The faster we can go, the better. And yeah, and that's how we ended up working together.
So, do you think you kind of grew through the project? It was sort of like the slight failure, and then but you needed to go through that in order to get to the next step and build on that. Is that how you feel about it?
Yeah, it's a hero story.
Yes.
Hero's journey.
Hero's journey.
Yeah, it's like honestly, this is one of the when I give like I have this making off talk about the film, and this is one of my biggest takeaways. Like it's like learning that you grow in the process, and yeah, it was a six something years process. So obviously grew, and I went through a lot of things, and I felt like when people would say like, "Oh, I was so attached to this," and like, and I felt it. I was like, "Wow, this is so stupid." But at the same time, at that time, at the first time that this happened, I couldn't even look at it from outside. I was just like setting my like I would feel like chest pressure, like I feel no, I don't want it to go like the wrong way or whatever. Like honestly, it was retarded, and obviously it was like darker times for me as well. Like I was in bad place emotionally, and so that didn't contribute to me having the best like point of view for things. And so it like I was blinded, like literally, and I grew, and I still can obviously fall into insecurities, absolutely. Like I did fall into that at the end of the project, because Magnus and Peter, they're in Denmark as well, right? And they're working in your time zone basically plus 1 hour, and we had been like trying to finish the last like details and whatnot, like literally, like I was doing the credits, we were doing Magnus was doing like color correction and like some like fixes in like the renders and whatever. And I wrote them a message like trying to know where we were at and like how they were doing, because I knew they had picked up a couple of projects. Obviously they couldn't work for a year in the film, they worked for 3 months and then they picked up work, and then they would work on the spare times. And I wrote
Yeah.
them, and I didn't hear back for like two weeks, I think. And I wrote them again a longer message going like, "Hey, I wanted to know," da, da, da. And obviously, it like for them it didn't sit very well because like Magnus was like working late every day, and so
Yeah.
who's this piece of shit that is trying to like ask me what am I doing? And I understand it, but at the same time, looking at it from the side that I was in that point, I was like, I just didn't know anything, so I didn't know what the situation was, and without any answer, I couldn't in my head go like, well, I guess they're just busy, so I'm just gonna sit here and wait for 3 months, right? I didn't know what was going on, so I was just afraid, and my insecurity was eating me up, right?
Yeah.
And so yeah, I still fell into things, just less. And then when Magnus wrote me, he's like, "Ah, I don't want you like obviously like he was like a bit angry because of the thing." And I was like, "Yeah, you're totally right. I'm sorry. I just wanted to know where you guys like whether you guys existed or not." And they were just incredibly busy and working super late, and obviously they couldn't have time to just like write me a message. And so yeah, I apologize and like I'm super sorry. It's just completely my bad, but it was just communication is so important
Yeah.
that in mostly when you're working remotely from people from different cultures, we're like they're Danish, I'm Chilean, I live in Canada, different,
Yeah.
right? And at that point I was semi-unemployed. No, actually I was already unemployed, and they were fully working.
Yeah.
So obviously I was like, well, come on, you have to have a minute, you know? So
Yeah.
no, it's tricky. It's tricky to keep yourself in check. So I think I did learn a lot about that. It's just probably next time I'll find other areas where I'm insecure
Yeah.
compared to this time.
Yeah.
It's like it's all there's always like a little hole that you can't cover them all, but
Yeah.
you try. And I learned a lot about this part. And so one of the things that I would do in the next film is to be much more clear about things, like because I felt like some of my insecurities kicked in a lot of the times when I wasn't super clear about something, and things started going the direction that I wasn't expecting. And I'd be like, oh, but like I want to pull it a little bit more over here. right?
Yeah.
And that's when it was like, oh, I don't know how to handle this. I don't know how to tell friends that are working with me on this for free, how to like drive it the other way, because also I don't want to be the king. So I want to be very clear and like do things once instead of doing it 100 times, you know.
Was that your biggest challenge, do you think? Was this communication element, was that the hardest, sort of the fact that you were working in a team and kind of relied on that? And would you have any advice to people who are going to start this project for themselves and how they might cope with that sort of challenge?
So I think my biggest challenge was the insecurities, but the second one was communication, for sure. Communication is super hard, and also when you work on something for a long time, you have a lot of decisions that you made in your head, right? And or you tried something and then that didn't work, and then you tried again, or you tried a different thing and that didn't work, and then you tried a third thing and you go like, oh, this is the one. Keeping track of those things is also super important, because sometimes later down the road somebody's going to say, well, remember, like they won't know what you did or not do, and they'll go like, oh, what if we do this, and they go back to your first idea, and you're like, there's two ways it can go. Could be like, yes, I tried that and that didn't work because ABC, and done. It could go, I don't remember, so sure, maybe let's try it. And then later down the road, once you try, you go like, oh no, it didn't work because of this, broke this and this and this and that. Crap, right? And that it's terrible because you already did the exercise and now you made the mistake of actually going into that thing and not realize. And also you don't want to be closed off as in, oh no, I don't want to try anything. This isn't that. And so I think communication is very important, because you need to not only communicate ideas of what you want, but also you need to communicate a lot of the why you did something, and knowing the why a lot of times implies also remembering the thought process behind it. Because there's a lot of decisions, you just do them, you think about them and all of the why, and then you completely forget it's just a decision. It just makes sense, right? Until you need to change it, and then you're like, And so, for instance, in some of these cases, it can be positive. Like I did in the first animatic, I had the knight going to the dragon's lair to hunt to fight him. It was a much longer sequence actually, right? You'd see him like getting out of the castle and getting to like a motorbike that was no, actually it was like a wooden horse, like you know the ones with the little wheels that the kids have. You get into that and hoop over like mountains and get to the dragon's lair, and he would be obviously very tired because like it's a long trip, and you'd hear the dragon and you'd see the eyes, like the eyes of the dragon in the darkness, just the eyes, and then he would burn the night from like inside. You still wouldn't see the dragon, and then the dragon, like the night would be like all dark, you know, all kind of like all burnt.
Yep.
And he would like get angry. You hear the music of like the music that we would hear at the end when the knight gets angry and kills the king. You know, there's a dun,
Yeah.
dun. Okay. So you'd hear that music, you'd see the slashes, and then would appear back, right? And for the second, like the final animatic that I had in 2D, I cut that entire sequence and made it into, you just hear a horse back riding, you just hear the dragon, and then you just hear the slashes, and then we go back to picture. It was black and like that. Right.
That must be quite hard to cut that out once you've worked so hard on it, to then suddenly say in the bin sort of thing.
Well, I didn't, because it was storyboards. That's the whole point of planning things well. You do storyboards. If it works in storyboards, it's gonna work in 3D, right? And storyboards take you. I mean, it takes me forever because I can't draw, but still takes me less than doing a scene in 3D. True. Right? That's it. Like it's a couple of balls. I can actually show you that story. It's super ugly. I call it ugly-matics, to be honest. But like it would help me make all those decisions, like put together all of the ideas that I had, and then you know what, this shouldn't be here. And the reason I cut it at that point was like, well, it doesn't add too much to the story. It adds maybe a joke or two, sure, but it doesn't add too much to the story, and it adds a lot of extra work that if I'm gonna do this alone, maybe let's do less work,
Yeah.
right? Just for the sake of like trying to keep it a film that I can make. Because originally I set out to do a film on my own, right? That was as short as possible and as simple as possible, and to just give you a little laugh. That
Yeah.
was the whole like my constraints, right? And so I did this first animatic. I was like, cool, I'm gonna throw all of the ideas into the grill, and then see which ones maybe don't work necessarily to tell the story, right?
Yeah.
I just want to make sure that the story is as concise as possible. And so I took away a lot of things. Funnily, once we were in the final animatic and I had cut all this stuff down, then the first group of friends I worked with, they were like, "Oh, we could show that part. Like, why don't we make that visual?" And I, sure. I mean, I had it. It's just like, I mean, I thought it was gonna be a lot of work. Yeah, but we do like the same layer every time, and we just like make a quick cut. And I'm like, because I already had the durations with the audio that I did, and also like there was a progression every single time. The audio was just like a little bit faster and a little bit
Yeah.
shorter, right? And they're like, we just like added the same thing 3 4 times, like the night just like going in that loop, and then I get into the cave, and then the slashes, and that worked well enough, and it was easy to produce. And then with Tumblehead, we even plused more because they were like, well, what if we make every version of them like slightly different? One is in the desert, one is in the tundra, or like in a forest, and then the other one is in Norway. I'm like, oh, that works. Like it will feel like it's more places while keeping the same base animation, same base environment and whatnot. And so yeah, it's super fun. So
Yeah.
yeah, I forgot the question.
I've got
Yeah,
another question within that actually. It's
yeah.
so you're saying you had this sort of initial. I want this. I want it to be a short, quick film, and produce it. Is it quite important to keep to those original ideas, or to have that sort of mindset to keep going through and keep going back? No, I want to produce this, or is it good to change halfway through?
Um, I think there needs to be flexibility because the situation changed as well. So
Mm.
at the beginning, it was me just gonna make a film for myself, and so I need to keep everything to the minimum, everything condensed, everything simple. Once there was more team and they were wanted to also push and thought it was a good idea, I could be a little bit less what do you call economical about things because we had resources to do more as well,
Yeah.
right? As long as that wouldn't interfere with the main things, which was just to tell a story, simple, not too long. Because that was the thing. Like to me, it was like it's a gag. It's a stupid film. It's just literally a joke. So let's keep it to what it is. If we make this a joke that's gonna last 2 hours, then it's not gonna pay off to anyone,
Yeah.
right? Because I feel like people watch things and it's like there is a expectation regarding the length of the films. If you're gonna watch a 30-second thing compared to a 7-minute film thing, you should or you're if expecting that your investment of all that time will pay off in a different way than a 30-second one.
Mm.
And so, because the film was always and or, like ended up being this gag with obviously there's layers to it, and there's like you're you're from the UK, chopping the king's head. There's like lots of layers to it, like politics, work ethic. There's burnout
Yeah.
and mental health. Those layers are secondary to the main gag, which is I wanted to give some satisfaction. It's basically that. It's like, you
Yeah.
know what? I'm tired of these bullshit directors that don't know what they're doing, and so let's chop their heads, right? And so you in that case, like I didn't want it to become a 7-minute film because obviously it's still that gag that it's just that joke, right? And so there needs to be that payoff. Now, as long as you still keep true to most of the things that you set out to do, or rethink what the story is. Maybe like I thought maybe we should make it a little bit deeper. There was another ending that at some point I kind of wanted to do, and it's like the film ends the way it ends right now, but then when it closes into the king's head, you actually come out of the knight's eye, right? And the knight is like still like twitching, and you cut to the king, and the king goes like again, right? And he goes like okay, and like he turns around and just like sadly goes back to work, right? And that changes the film. It's a different story. It's a little bit more deep in a way, probably.
Yeah.
Uh, but it's less satisfying though. Like that
Yes.
satisfaction that you got before, it was like, oh no, oh my God, yeah, I get to go work. So I guess the answer to the question is like you can change things along the way as long as it makes sense.
Yeah.
Like it's like any journey. Like this is the same way I travel. I set out to go somewhere and I put some places that are milestones or whatever. But what happens in between, you go away. And so if you can't go to one of the places, it's not a problem. You choose another one, or you find something interesting to do instead, right?
Yeah.
It's a general plan, and then that will help you guide most of your decisions. That's the thing. Like
Yeah.
and it's everything is kind of like that. You guiding your decisions with something that makes sense. If you're not have a general guidance for making decisions, then it's really hard to do anything that is even consistent or even good at all, right?
Yeah. Yeah. It makes a lot of sense. So,
Mhm.
another part of that question was, what advice would you have for someone who was doing this for, thinking of making a short film? Have you got any sort of nuggets there ready for us?
So there is a couple of them. One of them, and I really like this one, is plan everything, because there's always going to be things going wrong. There's always going to be things that are in your control. But the more you plan, the less things are going to go wrong. Like some of the things that you plan might go wrong, but already know that they might go wrong. But the things and the surprises come in the things that you didn't plan. But the more things you leave like inside the plan, there's less things that can explode in a way, right? So just that's why I made a storyboard in the begin to begin with without even knowing how to draw. I was like, you know what? I'm just gonna try this. I'm gonna try this, and just to put ideas. It's not even to any for anybody to look at. I just need to write it in a way that I can see the film and go like, oh, this doesn't work. This doesn't work. This doesn't work. Okay, let's take this out. Let's switch this one over here. Oh, maybe that's better, right? It's economical. It's cheap. It's easy, right? It's easy to just draw and then be like, oh, you know what? This doesn't work, and I don't care about it so much, right? Even though I did, because I was like,
Yeah.
oh, it took me so long. Then be enjoy the process. This is one that they say a lot, but the more about it, like don't wait till you're skilled enough. Like, because at the beginning, like at the very beginning, I was trying to get friends to help me with the storyboards, and obviously we've all had this friend that goes like, "Oh, animation. Can you make an animation for me? I have a great idea." And then you go like, "Okay, let me hear the idea." And they say, "Well, there's a character with another character, so." And do you have a story there? No, but you can do it. Okay. So I felt like I was doing the same with friends, right? I was like, oh yeah, that makes sense. I wouldn't do like if somebody comes like that with me to me, like I won't do anything anyways. Like I have enough of my free ideas
Yeah.
to do. And so uh just start. Just start. Like I was like, I can't draw, but I'll just put stick figures together and then make something that I can read so I can move to the next stage. And so after I did that, I did some like ugly designs that doesn't really matter. But in the end, you see that from that to what it is today, it hasn't changed that much. It's obviously looks pretty and it's rendered pretty and the designs are great and everything, but it's not what I did in the beginning. But that helped me that to when I talked to Marion, had a super clear idea of what the film was, and so she got super excited about it, and she's like, "Oh, I can do designs for this." Like I really feel for the story. She was like at that point in the exact same place that I was when I started it, and so she's like, "I can't do this anymore. I'm like tired of these blah 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 directors, whatever, whatever." And when I told her the story, she's like, "I'm down. Like let's work on this, right?" And so start wherever you start, and then as you progress you'll learn more. Like my final storyboard, even though it's still shit, it's way better than the first one, like miles. Obviously, yeah, I traced characters and whatever, but if you look at it as a storyboard, like I don't have to tell you anything. You sit down and you watch it and you go like, that's the movie, right?
Yeah.
And so you learn and grow a lot in the process. Like that's definitely one. Like don't hold back on the fear of I need to hone the skills first to get there. If you want to use film to hone the skills, and then you'll realize that eventually you're not gonna like it because it's not as good as you could do today. Sure, right? Or make a simpler film first, and then
True.
once you learn a little bit, then make a little bit more complex film, and then make a little bit more complex film, and then it will take you there. Um, that's another one. And then I had just trust. If you get people to help you, trust them. Because
Yeah.
just
Interesting.
also you're doing something for free, right? Like my friends, like none, like I didn't pay a single dime. I mean, I put money off my pocket to do things because I wanted to do, right? I don't have money to pay a salary, not by any means. But once you get people involved, like commit to them and trust them, like they'll put their hearts in this. So be aware that as if you would be working on somebody else's thing, you need to respect that, right? And be open to like the ideas. Like the film didn't wasn't good because what I did. It's good because of what everybody else did. I basically designed a structure and they made it great. And they made it, and the thing is like as a team we made something that summing the skills of each other wouldn't have been possible. It's way beyond like what everybody could have done separately, right?
Yeah.
And that's I think that's what makes a film very fun to watch and very engaging. It's like, because if I would have done all of this alone, even if I had the same ideas, it wouldn't have worked. Wouldn't have been as great in every way. It's just it just elevates it. So trusting the people that if you work with people, and giving them the space to be creative and to do their thing, you'll be surprised how much better things can go. Right?
Yeah.
Like if you want to do it alone, then do it alone. Like don't get other people involved. Right? And yeah, I think those are probably the main three.
Yeah.
I would say, yeah.
That's perfect. So you've got a little bit of a sort of you've done a couple of presentations, and you've got some stuff that you're willing to go with and go through with and share with us about the sort of technical aspects. Can you show us some of that now?
Yeah, absolutely. Let me. Oh, there we go. And this was a super fun part of the project. I really liked this process because once we were in the second version of the animatic, we did three big versions, right? Version 1, 2, 3. In the second version, we hadn't decided the final character. We changed the design for X reason. I think we liked this one because it was kind of funny and like out of the badge. But the thing is that then after looking at it for some time, it felt it was a bit dumb in his looks. Like he looked too dumb for the audience to like connect with him a little bit more. But one of the things that we did there, which was really great, it was like my friend Gaston, he like sculpted this like in Nomad Sculpt or something like that in the iPad. And then I didn't even retopologize it. That's why I showed
that's some bad topology there.
Yeah, this is absolutely terrible. That's like, honestly, I just decimated it so it was usable.
Yeah.
Because I knew this was not gonna be a final character. It is just like a test to see how more or less it looks and how maybe we can make some animation. So I just like decimated it so it was usable.
Yeah.
Like trying to keep the same basics. Added some shaders on top to just like see what it's what. And then like on top of it, I just added some crappy like simple bones. Like you can see there's a bone here,
Yeah.
there's another there, and there's like a bendy bone there. Same thing for the other arm. The nose is one bone, the head is one bone. There's this squash and stretch that goes the entire body, and there's like legs. I don't even think they had eye case. I think they're just like straight bones with another bone in the bottom.
It's quite encouraging, this, because it looks so simple, but it actually is really effective. I love it.
Yeah, when you actually see it moving, you go like, oh, it's actually works. Like I could
Yeah.
do a film that moves like that, right? Like that's all I needed. Well,
It looks so cool.
and so we did it. We did test with this, right?
Yeah.
And it was not obviously the final anything, but it helped us inform decisions. We were like, oh yeah, this can work. Like maybe we do the backgrounds like that because originally I wanted to do like maybe super simple backgrounds where like the details were drawn with like grease pencil or something like that. But with grease pencil at that time wouldn't work very well with the motion blur, but it did sometimes. I didn't. I mean, it's not a lot of control. Also, I cannot draw, so why would I draw the background? Um, but there was like little ideas there, right, of how like the character would like present itself to the king the first time, or like in a funny way. And then we did the same with the king, with just
Yeah.
like a couple of things here and there, you know, bones, like scratch and stretch. It was just enough to communicate, you know, like the to ourselves even. It's like, oh, does this work? Does this help?
Yeah.
Right? And but we could have done a film like that.
Yeah.
And so with this, the cool thing that this informed as well was that like I was I modeled this like a little part of the building of the castle. And once I was there, I was like, what if I like chop this part and then just like array it 1,000 times and then
Yeah.
just move the camera? Maybe it's like a stupidly long hallway. And that ended up being like the introduction to the film. Like you start, he appears, boom, slide to like the title, and then we carry on. And if I wouldn't have done this, that wouldn't have been part of the film, right? And that's what one of the things that made me afraid when we first started with one team. Like we started going so fast that I didn't have time to do, oh, let's test this. Oh, it doesn't work. No, it was we were committing to things, right?
Yeah.
Even did tests like that, like this, and this one is super funny because like you can see, like I just like grab here, I grab after I realized that's not the character, I just cut out a version of the final one from the original design and put it in an environment. I was like, well, maybe that looks cool,
Yeah.
right? And then like I tried, let's see if I can paint some textures for the backgrounds or whatever. I even cut actual cardboard,
Yeah.
right, to to try and make it see if that was gonna work. I was like, yeah, maybe not. But yeah, it's that playful part. I really like it, right? Uh,
Yeah.
Makes it super fun to be able to play, and that's why I like doing things in Blender, because this is like not possible in pretty much any other software. Like adding a couple
Interesting.
of bones and just skinning them and then use them to animate and be able to like always go back to your default pose and like add a scratch and stretch. Like literally this rig took me 10 minutes.
Yeah.
Like yeah. And actually I'd love one day to like make not a tutorial, I don't know, like a look how you can rig things simple so like you can try things out and play. Because I don't know, a lot of the friends that do like super nice like art that like I don't know, there are images, still images. With just like a couple of bones in Blender, they could make the characters breathe and like keep in
Yeah.
and keep a light pose, add like a couple of like I don't know controllers to the eyes and have like an eye target so the character can look around and whatever. And that's really easy to add in Blender.
Yeah.
And it just like adds so much more to that piece because this could have been still images otherwise.
Yeah. Oh, that's fantastic. That's really brilliant. I love seeing it like this because it's quite encouraging, really. These sort of early stages, and it still looks really quite impressive. But it's the simplicity that you think maybe I could do that, you know. And I hope there's people out there looking at this thinking, oh, maybe it's not as obviously. I'm not diminishing what you've done because it's
No. It is no. That's the thing. Like it is achievable, and that's one of the things. Like things like in CG is achievable. It's doable. Yeah. What we did as a team is not as easy because like every artist like that was involved was a super senior artist. Like Magnus, the way he painted the textures and the details he added into everything that already had some details and some design, whatever. He added stuff that plussed it a lot, right?
yeah,
And that's things that maybe I wouldn't have thought of, right? Because he's really good at like shading and lighting and making those details and the design and pushing things. Because also he knows the style. He's worked on this kind of style for nearly 15 years, and every one of his films has gotten better, right? And because he's improving upon it, right? And better in look, better in style and everything. And so yeah, like there's things that I'm like, oh my God, like I wish I could even think of that, because when you look at it, it's not so hard to do, but just had the idea of like, oh yeah, these kind of details would work really well here, right?
Yeah.
And maybe this part needs to not have so much detail, right? Yeah,
Yeah.
it's cool, and I really like the fact that I can inspire people to do stuff like this. This is what I was telling you before, of the cycle of the course at the beginning
It's
that I
brilliant.
originally did in 2D.
It's
And since
great.
I don't know how to do 2D, I just did like I did one shape and then I made it up, bounce up and down, then did that shape, made it bounce up and down. I just thought of the overlap and then connected that with that, and then added the legs, and then added like a couple of spheres to do the night. And then once I had like the whole thing, here you'll see the process how it went,
Yeah.
right? And then in the end, when I had it all, I just painted it black,
Yeah. It's fantastic. It's the movement. It's
right?
just you've really got an art there. It's absolutely fantastic. It's so much fun.
Let me show you this little clip. This is early there. This is the first time that we started seeing things kind of
Yeah.
progressing into something.
That was quite interesting as well. Just that small bit there, but there's so much to it because it builds up, and then it's the wiggle of the eyes even, and and the bones are even wiggly. Yeah, the horns. Sorry, it's very impressive. But there's those minute details that are so fantastic throughout the film. I absolutely love them.
Thank you, man. I wanted to ask you if you have like a film in your body that you want to make.
Always, but I haven't. Yeah. Well, always, it's when I first got into the industry, that was my dream. It was either to make a game or a film, and that's why I started learning. But in fact, you know how the life kind of gets on top of you, and I've kind of had a different pathway, which was teaching, and I'm happy enough with it. But there's always when I see something like this, I think, oh, that's just so brilliant. I'd love to be involved in a project like that because it just looks so cool. And I was so excited when I saw it. It made me think, that the special talent that's gone into this, and it's so creative, and you've expressed yourself so well. There was a bit of envy there, It's sort of like, it's so good.
Hopefully, it's inspiration.
It
like,
is
for you to
inspirational,
make
and
something.
I hope people who are watching this will see that as well, because when I saw the film, I just was blown away. I just thought, this is everything was about it was what I love, that genre, the craziness, the silliness about it, and the story itself. We've all been there in those freelance roles. So not quite. Can you make the logo bigger and all this sort of stuff?
Yeah.
And so you feel for this night as well. I had a connection to this night. So yeah, I'm
I'm
sort of
glad.
happy that you've shown this to me, and you've made me laugh. It really did make me laugh.
Oh man,
Well
I'm so
done.
happy to hear that. Yeah, it's funny because I really like the fact that we've made we've managed to accomplish what I felt throughout my life watching short films. I always been exactly the same as you. Man, I love that. I love when they nail also the style of the things that I like, right? And I go like, oh,
Yeah.
it's so inspirational to like maybe one day I'll inspire somebody else. So hopefully this gets you over that line, and just like now you get
Yeah,
started. And like just keep it simple. I think keeping it simple.
I think that's it,
Uh,
isn't it? Yeah, have a good idea, keep it fairly simple, because you nailed the timing. It's quite short, but the way you told the story in that time was tremendous. It was bang on, and it was just enough, and it left me wanting more. It's sort of like, that was brilliant. I want to see another one.
Yeah,
What?
one of the things I think helped a lot is I never thought I need to make the best animation. I just need to tell this story as simple as possible. When I had like the animatic, the final animatic that I showed around, there was somebody that knew me as an animator. They knew that I was an animator and whatnot, and they looked at it. They look at the animatic and they go like, "Well, this doesn't seem to involve a lot of animation." And like, yeah, because I'm not making animation for making animation. Animation is expensive and it
Yeah,
takes a long time. I just want to tell the story. And so if the character needs to just do this, That's what goes in the storyboard, and then in the film, it's gonna do. That's it.
Yeah.
Done. Just make that pretty, but that's about it.
Yeah.
No need to make overcomplicate it. No need to like just try and make super moment of that. It's literally the character needs to go that, and that's it, right?
Yeah.
So like sticking to some of those rules that you set up in the beginning helps a lot, right?
Yeah.
And obviously, again, like you can be flexible, but
Yep.
that helps a lot to actually accomplish it.
So
So yeah, I hope you actually to see you making a film.
yeah, maybe one day. How you were saying earlier, you were saying, "Oh, I've got these wonderful friends who are really skilled." Well, that's how I see you, because you're that step above me. You see, so I think, "Oh, I've got this friend who's absolutely brilliant at this stuff." So I'm way down here.
Appreciate it, man. No,
I've got a long
not
way
at
to
all.
go.
Like, it's honestly like it's doing things.
Yeah.
It looks like we did something bigger than it is because we did it, right? And I'm so proud that honestly, I think my biggest skill in this whole thing was I was like able to gather people to work on it, like
Yeah.
that were excited,
True.
that got excited to do it. That's I think the biggest skill that I have,
Good
and
point.
that we got it to the finish line.
Yeah. Just a quick last question then.
Yeah.
It left me wanting more. So is there anything in the future that you're preparing?
So that time when I wrote this film, I wrote like 6 other films.
Ooh. Ooh.
Yeah, it was a splurge. I was like, oh well, I never been able to write films, and now I wrote 6. What's going on? And then it turned off, and I'm still like, maybe I should try to write something different that I would have. But honestly, I have a couple of films that I really like. One is about like a guy that's balding, basically. Yeah, I went to the,
No, I can feel it too.
yeah, and it's also
keep
like
the camera at this angle.
yeah, I always envy your hair. I was like, how did you have this?
I won't lean
But,
down. There's a little ball patch.
Oh yeah, no,
It's thinning.
you
It's
know.
thinning.
It happens. It's okay. In the end, and then that's the point of the film. The point of the film is like it's okay. I mean, you're still the same person. Like things don't change that much. They change, but not
They
that
change,
much.
but not too much.
But I want to like show a character going on this process and you know like the scare, the moment of like shit, I'm going bald, and like all of the insecurity that comes with that, and what things that you try to do, and I think that could be super fun to be told like with one character, one environment, simple setup.
Yep.
Should be super fun to do. Just need to finish writing it and then they get there. And I have other ones that as well, like and they're all in the same kind of vein. Like it's usually comedy with some a little bit deeper undertones. But just I really like comedy. I think it it I can do like naturally. It's hard for
Yeah.
me to actively do it, but naturally comes well to me.
It certainly does.
And thank you. And so yeah, there is more stuff to be done. I just need to start finding the time again and the energy. I want to revive my YouTube channel in between because maybe that will help like doing the next few films.
Yeah.
I want to do a film in Blender, obviously, because I'm a huge fan of it. And so that will help me learn a little bit more because I feel like I'm a bit dated now. Like most of the things I know are from animation 2 years ago. And animation has changed so much in the last 2 years. And geometry nodes and
Oh man, yeah.
Grease pencil. Like I can't wait to use the new Grease pencil. So maybe I'll do like backgrounds with the Grease pencil this time, or maybe use it for design stuff. I don't know. But there is a hunger there for learning and for doing more films. Because also, the other great part about making a film is when you finish it. It's just so much fun to talk to people about it. When people recognize the film, like I was at the Disney party a couple of weeks ago because they did the wrap party for Moana. And I was like I was with a bunch of friends, obviously, that we worked together. And then suddenly, like, people started saying hi to me, people that I didn't know, because they'd seen the film.
Oh,
and I'm like,
man.
but I'm coming here, like, to just, like, be with the stars. And turns out people are treating me like I'm the star. I'm like, no, I don't get it. Right? But
Nice.
it's super rewarding in a way, like, to be recognized for something that you did, right?
Oh,
And that
yeah.
people they came because they liked it. So I was like, oh my God, it's weird. I didn't expect it, but also it feels nice, right?
Yeah.
And it also opens up more contacts. Like you start meeting people because of something that you did, and you didn't expect to meet people, right?
Yeah. I think
And you
that
know me, I like my people.
yeah, too right. I think that's probably a great point to leave it, in the sense of just go and do it, and it will open up opportunities. Even if you fail at it, and try again and fail, and embrace failure, I always say, and you learn from that. Yeah, and it creates opportunities. So yeah, go out, make films, be creative. I think that's a great message, and that's how
Yeah,
I feel I've got from
I
this. I
agree
think
about it. Yeah, I agree with it. Like just do it. If you feel like you want to do it, do it.
excellent.
Honestly, today there's nothing stopping you. There's the resources everywhere. I mean, if you're watching this, you probably have a computer.
Yeah,
There's YouTube to learn. There's lots of free tutorials from Grant Abbott. I know that guy. He's pretty good.
you might need some
Honestly,
more
I love your
quality
tutorials.
from.
They're really good.
You better get back to your
Every now and
YouTube
then, I
channel.
just sit down and watch them. Like even though I know I don't have to do anything, but I just enjoy watching them
Hey,
because I feel like I'm learning. So.
thanks, man.
And yeah, and there's so many things that you can do, and you don't need to make something. You don't need to have a Hollywood budget today with Blender and maybe pen and paper.
Yeah,
Make it fun.
yeah, quite right. Well, thank you very much, Luciano. That was fantastic and lovely to chat as always. And I'm really looking forward to the next film.
Yeah, thank you. Well, we'll see how long that takes. It was
Awesome
lovely
stuff.
to chat with you again, man. It's such a pleasure. Thank you so
Excellent.
much.
Thank you.